Hey, what up, YouTube fam? This is Notifake Jays. Happy New Year. I just wanted to drop a quick video today of my soul swap that I did over the holidays. I know I've been away for a minute. I've been working on a personal project, which I'm hoping to finish around September of this year, 2019, and in which I will give you guys a sneak review of that. And it's thing to do with shoes. Is a personal project of mine, and so I'm hoping to, and that's the reason why I've been away. But today's video is going to be about sole swap of a using the sole of a Nike Air Zoom Vapor Zoom, using the bottom sole here and sole swapping it to the Vapor Max with the original Air Max 95 upper. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I plan to wear these for tennis, and I know that this bottom sole Air Max, the Vapor Max, will not hold. I think if you wear it out, it's just going to eventually pop, and so I wanted something a little bit more sturdy, so the Nike Zoom here will do the job well. So let's get into it, the materials that you need and what you need to do the sole swap. First of all, the important thing is you need acetone. You need quite a bit of acetone for this job. For this shoe in particular, because I'm not going to be using the upper, what I did was I removed the shoelace, removed the insole, and I just pour the acetone in there. About, I would say, up to maybe just, you know, maybe a cupful of acetone. Just kind of let it sit in there, swirl it around. I would advise you guys to use put the shoe in a bathtub or in a or in some sort of bucket that's big enough so the acetone doesn't just run everywhere. And even if it does, you can then pour back in there, and hopefully it will, to reuse it. So once I let it sit there for about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, kind of swirl around, and then the fabric will start to get really soft, in which then you can start prying these teeth marks on the side. What I would also recommend you guys using is either a butter knife or some sort of a flat edged, like a flat edge, flat screwdriver or something that is like a butter knife that you can stick in there and can kind of pry it around. Okay. But once acetone kind of sets in there, you can actually literally just pinch the back, and this part will start coming. The bottom part, the back part will start to come off. So yeah, you have to kind of pinch it and then let the acetone. And then once you have a little gap in here, you can probably pour a little bit more acetone in here, just to isolate this area and start working your way. So pinch it, work your way around it, and then eventually all this stuff will just be very easy to remove. I wouldn't recommend using the boiling water method, which I've seen on YouTube, because what happens is that when you put extreme heat on the sole, it actually will expand the sole, and so I really wouldn't recommend it that you do that. I would still just recommend you guys using acetone first to try to get it off, because anytime when you're using extreme heat, you will expand the rubber part of the sole, which then fitment of the shoe will be an issue later on. So you want to make sure you don't alter the size of the sole. It's just for better fitment. So once that's taken off, this is what's going to look like. Okay, so as you can see, it's a pretty clean, cut, I guess, when you remove it using the acetone in the shoe. And then you can see from the back, there wasn't much to be done other than just squeezing it, and the thing will start to kind of peel off. And then as you can tell, the bottom part here, is actually part of the bottom sole here, or the fabric that's used, was ripped off because of the glue, which I didn't really care that much as well. So, but anyways, you can tell that I wasn't going to be using this upper, so I basically just kind of, pry it off carefully without damaging the sole. And you can see there's quite a bit of acetone used around the edges here as well. Okay. So that's what it looks like, okay, for this shoe. And then the other thing that you will need to probably do is once this part is done, you will have to use a Dremel to shave down any surface that's not flat, because again, it's for, once you glue the bottom sole onto the shoe, you want to make sure there is flat surface, and there's no residual glue from the factory glue that will prevent you from bonding the sole to the shoe. So you need a Dremel to do that as well, and acetone to kind of clean it off, and then do the Dremel to make sure the inside sole is flat, and that there's no factory glue on there. Now for this particular shoe, it's going to be a little bit different, just because you have to be more careful, because I'm going to be using the upper and attaching the bottom. Okay, so I have to make sure the upper is preserved as best condition as I could, whereas I didn't really care about this one, so this one is basically trashed. So with this one, instead of pouring acetone inside the shoe, on this particular shoe, I noticed that it's actually, the bottom sole is actually comes in two pieces. So you can see that there's a gap right here in the middle. Okay, right there. That's the middle part. That's a gap. So it comes in two pieces. So what I did was I kind of just started pouring acetone on the side, or in the middle here, to kind of let it leak in, and then I used a butter knife to kind of pry my way through that. And once you have a little hole, then you can just pour more acetone in there. Just kind of work your way through it. Take the butter knife, whatever, to kind of work your way through it, and then eventually this part will just peel off. And then same thing with here, so that you can just kind of start pouring. You may use a butter knife or something to create a little space or a little gap, so then you pour acetone in here, and then work your way through it, and then you can then peel it off. So once it's taken off, this is what it looks like. Okay, this is what it looks like from the sole of it inside. So you can tell it's pretty clean. It's a pretty clean removal of the sole. Okay, and then this is the the heel half. Okay, so once you take that out, you can just toss it or whatever, or you can sell it, whatever you want to do with it. But and then once that's taken off, the bottom part, again, you have to use the bottom part of the upper. You have to use acetone to wipe off any factory glue. And then again, I used a little bit of Dremel on the side, because there was some factory glue here on the side. As you can see right there, see that little black mark right here? That right there where my thumb is? That's factory glue right there. So once you take that off, you'll probably have to use Dremel to carefully, don't get into the upper part, with I believe is suede. You don't want to damage the suede area, so you want to be very careful to use the Dremel to get rid of these factory glue marks, so that when you're bonding the bottom sole from this shoe to this one, that it'll have a better grab, a better adhesiveness. Okay, so you kind of have to work your way through it. Use a lot of acetone to clean it off, and then use Dremel to get rid of the factory glue. Now, to glue the bottom sole onto the upper, and you can find this on YouTube and how people do it, is I use people use the Barge Infinity Cement clear, which would be good, and that's something that I just ordered. But at the time, I had access to this at the store, which is just Barge all-purpose cement glue. The only reason I wouldn't recommend using this one, even though this works great, the only difference between this one and then the green one that a lot of people use, is that the green one is clear. This one has a little bit of a yellow tint to the glue. So when you're gluing on the side, later on, if you find that there's some fitments that did not stick, you would have to, use a toothpick or something to dab a little bit of the glue, cement glue, and then you want to put it on the side, and then and then you want to clamp it or do whatever you need to do, and then hold it together to glue it. But the thing is that if that excessive glue comes out on the side, you'll see it's yellow, versus clear, the Barge Infinity clear glue, cement glue, if even if it comes off on the side, like the excessive part, it's clear, so you may not see it as much. But because this is yellow, you might see it on the side, which you can clean it off, but it's just another thing you have to do. But so anyways, to glue this, so after I sand it down, use the Dremel to flatten out the surface to take off the factory glue, I put on the light coat of this glue, and one stick of this is probably good enough for a pair of shoes. So I used this whole thing for a pair of shoes. So all you really need is just about this much. Okay, and this is let me just kind of see what's the amount on this. But you can get this from like Ace Hardware Store. This one is about this one is about two ounces. Okay, so this is not that much. Okay, you don't need that much of it, and the one tube of this will be sufficient for you to do a pair of shoes. Okay, so I would put a light coat of the glue on there, and basically I would just squeeze it onto the sole and then use a brush to brush it, make sure to spread it evenly. A light coat is all you really need. You don't need to put a lot of it, just because you're going to be doing another coat, maybe 2 or 3 coats of it afterwards. So you want to put a light coat over the sole, or in the sole, and let it sit for about 3 hours. Okay, same thing with the bottom of this shoe. You want to put a light coat of the cement glue and let it sit for about same time, 2-3 hours. Okay, once that's done, then you want to put another light coat on the sole again and let it sit for about 2 hours. And same thing with this shoe, put another light coat on here, the bottom of this upper, and then wait for 2 hours. Now once that's done, then you take your heat gun. For this project, you will also need a heat gun as well. This is one that I use, Wagner. This one's really good. You want to use a heat gun and just on a low setting, and just you want to heat up the glue. Okay, so basically you'll just be working with the bottom sole here, so you'll be heating up the glue part, and the same thing, you'll heat up the bottom of the upper. Okay, and once you heat it up, I would say just go around, maybe like that, up and down, maybe 10 times on the low setting, and then when you're about to bond, it will just instantly catch. I mean, this stuff is really, really strong, really, really sticky. So when you're fitting this portion of the sole onto the upper, before I did any gluing or put any layer, I actually just kind of put the sole on here, okay, and I made a mark. I kind of drew around it, okay, where these teeth marks are. So I kind of drew around it to see where the parts are supposed to be laying, okay? Because if you don't do that when you're actually bonding the sole to the upper, if you don't have these markers or marks on the shoe, you're not going to know if it's straight or if it's crooked, and that's the last thing you want to do. Is you put on something, you put on the sole, and it's not straight. And because you can't take it off. Once it glues in, it glues in, and you have to do the whole process of acetone and all that stuff just to get it off, and that's gonna be a pain in the butt. So just make sure that before you put on any type of glue, measure it, put the sole on here and measure it, make sure it's straight, when you're putting the sole in here, make sure it's straight, and then you draw your teeth marks around it so that when you're actually bonding the sole to the upper, then you know where certain parts are supposed to go. Okay. So once that's done, once you're ready for fitment, I would probably start with the heel first. And basically then I would just take the upper and then put it where this part is right here. Okay. And then I have my marks already drawn on the shoe, so I know exactly where it needs to go. And then once you push it in there, it's gonna just instantly grab. It's gonna glue like crazy. So you want to make sure it's, you know, you can't once you put it in, you cannot like move around anymore. It basically is just gonna be instantly, you know, bonding. So you want to make sure, you know, aim correctly, do it slowly, and then push it in. Okay, so that it fits all the marking that you drew on the shoe. And then you kind of work once once the heel part is in, then the rest of it should be pretty much, you know, in place. And then you just kind of, you know, then you start gluing the front part. And then before you do that, I would probably just heat sink a little bit more on the front, just so that because when you're doing this, it's going to take some time, and this part might have sort of cooled down a little bit. So you want to just kind of heat it up a little bit more. And then once you do that, then you glue in the toe area, and it will just, you know, it'll be a good fit. Okay. So let me show you my finished product. So these are my finished products. So as you can tell, as you can tell that you probably can't see the marks that I made, because I actually I tried as best as I could to make sure I, you know, follow my marks here, and then I think it worked out pretty well. See, so there's still a little bit of gap in the back, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. You can always just re-glue this part as well, just to seal off any gaps that you may have. As you can tell, there's a little bit of excessive glue here, just because this part was not bonding well. So I had to put a little bit of glue in here. But everything else basically just, you know, once you put it in place, everything would just catch. So even the toe box area, as you can see, this part was, you know, kind of sticks out a little bit, but, you know, I had to kind of curve it upward so that it would attach to the upper toe box area. Okay. But yeah, that's how I did it. And I actually painted, I used Angelus flat black paint, okay, to paint the upper part of the sole. So this is originally, it was all white, so I just painted it some black with it, just because I think it would look nicer. And I think it turned out really nice, you know, in terms of the color matching of the lace loops to the bottom of the shoe. So it looks, you know, like, you know, this is part of it, you know, part of the shoe. So yeah, so this is my project. And again, because I'm such a big Roger Federer fan, he actually did come out with a Roger Federer, I think it was the RF Air Vapor Zoom AM95 PE, and which this part says RF on there instead of Air Max. And then basically everything is the same, except his is the bottom part where the green is black, and then where the black swoosh is, it's lime green. Okay, so you can check it out on the website to see what his shoe looks like. But I wanted to kind of come up with something that I could wear for tennis that would last me quite a while, just because of I like the Air Zoom unit here, because I do a lot of sliding and a lot of tennis, and I know that these soles will eventually wear out, and I know that having a thick sole will help that, versus playing tennis and these, it's just not gonna work. And I like the style of the shoe, but I didn't like the upper part, so that's why I decided to swap it out, okay, to this. So that's it. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. I know this video was a little bit longer than expected, but drop me a comment. Let me know if any questions, anything I can do to help you guys out. I'm here for you. So hope you guys have a great new year, and see you next time. Peace.